Well, hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. I know you've been missing me. I'm sorry for the MIA, but the good news is I'm back. I have upgraded some of the equipment that I have here, which hopefully will streamline a little bit of the process of getting these videos out, which will be great because they are a little bit, I don't want to use the word annoying, but they're almost annoying to put together because of how bad my old computer was. So this will be a little bit better for me, hopefully make it a little easier to edit and put these together. Anyway, today on the podcast, we're going to talk about something that has been a really fun topic I've been wanting to discuss for the last couple weeks, and now I finally have the opportunity to. I'm sure if you are plugged in at all to either conservative circles or culture in general, this has been one of the biggest things anyone could talk about at all. We're going to dissect the Barbie movie. I went and saw it. And first, I'm going to go ahead and say it had some funny bits. There were some parts in there that made me laugh. There was some funny parts, and anyone who says that it doesn't have any good comedy is lying. There is some pretty funny stuff. But I want to go over and I want to talk about why it's important, and mostly why almost everything it has to say about the relation between the sexes is wrong, and then at the end completely why it undermines its entire point and makes a great point that it does unintentionally. So there are going to be some spoilers in this episode, but I'm sure if you haven't seen the movie, you probably aren't going to see it. And if you've already seen it, then the spoiler alert doesn't really apply to you. So let's get to it. First, I want to do a quick overview of the plot of the movie for those who haven't seen it. In the movie, Barbie exists as a real, quote unquote, real person. There's a land of Barbies where all the Barbies live, and they basically hold all the power in Barbie land. They're the president, they're Congress, they're everything from that down to the postal worker. There's a little bit of magic in Barbie land. They kind of float and do whatever they want to do, and the women just rule. And the men, or the Kens, in Barbie land, they basically just hang out at the beach and wait for Barbie to come along and acknowledge their existence. So the men have no power in Barbie land. They don't do anything. They seem like they are not at all productive. Their professional job is beach. Just means hang out on the beach. That's basically what all the Kens seem to do. And that's fine, all well and good. The women hold all the power. The men hold no power. And Margot Robbie is the main actress in the movie. She begins to have some problems. There's a little crack in Barbie land. Thoughts of death and sadness start creeping in. Margot Robbie, she no longer wakes up pretty in the morning. She can't float anymore down to her car from her third floor place. She falls out of the house, and everything just seems to start going awry. So there's a couple things that happen we're just going to skip by, and ultimately Margot Robbie, Barbie, has to go to the real world because it turns out all the Barbies that exist in Barbie land are actually Barbies that exist in the real world. And when the people who play with Barbie get problems, it can affect the Barbies in Barbie land. So Margot Robbie has to go find the person who winds up being America Ferrera. And that's basically the plot of the movie. Anyway, there's other things that obviously happen, but that's Margot Robbie's overall story. Anyway, Ryan Gosling, who plays Ken, he tags along. And when Ken goes to the real world, Ken learns a lot of things. Ken learns about the patriarchy, which they use that word a lot in this movie. But Ken learns that in the real world, men rule everything. And he goes, what the hell? In Barbie land, Barbie doesn't do anything for us. Barbies rule everything. And he says, well, that doesn't make any sense to me because in the real world, the men rule. And he loves it. And so Ken, while Barbie's doing her whole thing, Ken goes back to Barbie land, and Ken creates Kenland, something like that. I think it was called Kenland. And basically turns Barbie land into a patriarchy within like 5 hours. He goes back and just immediately takes over and turns it into Kendom. The Kendom or Kenland, whatever it's called. So this is where the movie which the whole time up to here, when Barbie goes to the real world and learns about the patriarchy and then learns about all the problems that women have and how terrible it is and how bad men are and blah, blah, blah. She learns all this stuff. They go back to Barbie Land. And when they go back to Barbie Land, then it has become Kendom, the Ken Land, where Ken's in charge now. And so this is where the movie makes some pretty funny points, because up until then, they've displayed men as the bad guys, right? Men are the bad guys, and Barbie is great. They go to the real world. The first thing that happens is men are leering at Margot Robbie, and she makes a comment about how everyone's staring at her, and she feels scared because there's that underlying current of violence that they have. And at the same time, Ken says, no, it feels great, all these people staring. And so men, they leer, they're mean. The whole board of Mattel in the movie is made of men, even though in real life it's a 50-50 split between men and women. But they make the board evil, and they say, oh, well, you know, we can't have a woman. There was a woman who worked here for a long time, they say, but there's no now, not now. So all the men are bad. That's the whole point of the movie, is that the men are bad, the men keep women down, the patriarchy's real, and everything's terrible under the patriarchy. Well, when Barbie goes back to the Kendom, what does she find? Oh, Ken's taken over. And what does that mean? Well, that means that the Kens are in charge. The men now are in charge of Barbie Land. And what about the women? Are they subjugated? Are they put upon? Do they seem like they're depressed or unhappy or anything? No, actually. No, this is where the movie undermines its entire point about feminism and the patriarchy, is that the women are happy in Kenland. The women like it. They love it. They like being with Ken. They like helping Ken. They like being the stay-at-home sort of person, not mother, because there's only one. There's one mother in Barbie Land, but there's no motherhood. But they like being what you would call a traditional woman. The idea that they're going to stay home and their job is to care for the house and their husband. So the women love it, which is the unintentionally funny part of the movie, is that then Barbie says, this is terrible. The women aren't in charge anymore. The men are in charge. But she can't seem to get the women to realize that that's a bad thing, because the women are actually happy. So this is where Margot Robbie plays the role of feminism. And what Margot Robbie does is she takes America Ferrera around, and those two now are the embodiment of feminism, because what they're saying to the women who are happy and feel great is they get them by themselves. They isolate them from their man. They take the man away. They isolate them, and then while they're isolated, they tell them, hey, I know that you're happy and you're living in a daze, but we got to wake you up to reality. And they give them this big speech, and then all of a sudden the women wake up. And they realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I was living like this, and it's terrible, and blah, 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 blah. But they were happy. Here's the thing. If you convince yourself that you're happy in a situation, then you are by definition happy, because happiness is a state of mind. The women were happy in the Kenland, and then they were only unhappy after being exposed to feminism and told that they shouldn't be happy, which is the unintentional hilarity of the Barbie movie. Everything that they say about the patriarchy, when they show the patriarchy in Barbie Land, an actual patriarchy. Now you go to the real world and you say, well, the real world's not a patriarchy, not in America, which is what they were trying to say. There are patriarchies in the world. We can talk about the Middle East. You can talk about parts of Africa. You can talk about some Asian cultures where there is an actual patriarchy, but not in America. America, women have every right that men do, and they can do whatever they want, but we'll ignore all that nonsense for a moment and just focus on the fact when they showed what their idea of a patriarchy is, where Ken goes back and all the men are in charge, they have all the power, which is a patriarchy. The men have all the power when Ken takes over. Well, the women loved it. They were really happy. They were really happy in that patriarchy, and then only by being exposed to feminism did they become unhappy, which is also true in reality. The idea that movie shows is that what we've done is a tremendous disservice to women. And you can see this. There's a movement. So back in Ooh, I don't want to get my dates wrong. So it was the 19th Amendment, right? Am I right here? Or is it the 20th? I can't remember now off the top of my head. Oh man. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But in 1920, when women got the right to vote, that was fine. Everyone, that's great, right? We say, okay, that's fine. You say, women should have equal rights of men. And today, you're not going to find people who disagree with that. You're going to say, okay, that's fine. That's great. That's what we call first wave feminism. First wave feminism, where women said, we should have equal rights of men. That is something that almost every single person today realizes is great. That there's absolutely no reason why women shouldn't be able to vote or hold the same jobs or go to the same universities. This is fine. The problem is when feminism progressed away from that, the idea of equality, the idea that says, hey, we want to be equal. And it said, okay, well, women want equal rights. That's fine. But then what it did was it lied to women and said, you are the same as a man. You can be the same as a man and you'll be just as happy as a man. And that's the lie. That's the lie that we've told women that's done them a disservice. That's the lie that Barbie exposes them to in the movie. Because women aren't happy now. According to any poll that you look at, women are the most unhappy they've ever been since people started doing polls on women's happiness. And why is that? It's because of a couple reasons. One, we told women that they could have it all. And it's not true. You can't. There's no one who can. Men can't have it all. Women can't have it all. But women especially are plagued by this because we tell women that I don't, but society and now feminism, which is the real problem here. Feminism has told women that they should girl boss. You got to go out there. You got to be a boss. Actually, I pulled this up because I thought it was funny. America Ferrera gives a big speech in the Barbie movie, and I thought the speech was terrible. It's one of the most famous parts in the movie, but I thought the speech was terrible because so many of the problems that she is attributing to the patriarchy, well, those are the problems of feminism that she just is wrongly prescribing to the patriarchy. My favorite example is that she says, blah, 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 blah. Let me find it really quick. I had to pull it up. So she talks about how people are supposed to look. She talks about all this different stuff. And then she goes on to talk about how, she says, you have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. Okay, so you're attributing the fact that women are supposed to be a boss and they have to lead to the patriarchy? Can you explain that to me? Because that's actually feminists who say that. That's the people who think that women are going to be just as happy as men by being the CEO as... That's not the problem of patriarchy. That's the problem of feminism. Women are not going to be just as happy being a CEO as they are being a mother. That's fairly true. And that's a broad statement. There might be one or two, but on the whole, no. And so America Ferrera wrongly attributes the problem to men. But the problem is women. The women started this. Women said, we're going to be like men. And then they're surprised they're not happy. And then they attribute the problem of them not being happy to men when it's not men who say that women need to be a boss. It's not men who say that women have to go and lead. She's trying to show how the paradox of being a woman, how you have to do one thing, but then also the other thing at the same time. Well, no one's saying that. No one's saying you have to be a boss. No one's saying you have to go and lead. No one's saying you have to have a career. No one's saying this. She says all these things in there. You have to have a career. What does it say? You have to have a career. Blah, blah, blah. Something. I cut that part off. Well, she says you have to have a career. You have to be a boss. You have to do all these things. But it's not true. That's not the patriarchy. Obviously, it's not the patriarchy that's telling you have to be the boss. That's the girl boss attitude. That's the feminist attitude. That's the girl boss attitude that's making you unhappy. And you're attributing it to men, but you're wrong. And so we've done that to women because we put them in this position where we said, you can have it all. You can go be the girl boss, and you can be a mom, and you can do this, and you can do that. You can't. You have to make choices in life. And one of the things that women are finding is that they're making the wrong choices because that's what society now is telling them. Because we actually don't live in a patriarchy. We're encouraging women to do all sorts of things. And then when women are unhappy, we say, well, it's the patriarchy. But it's not the patriarchy that's doing that. It's not the fact that men rule everything that's telling women that they should go to college and be focused on their careers and put a lot of hours in at the office. And these are the things that make women unhappy. It's not necessarily going to college, but putting long hours in at the office as opposed to having a good family, that is the thing that is making women unhappy. And that is not a patriarchy problem. That's a women's lib problem. And because the fact is you can't work like a man, like a driven man. So someone who is trying to be that CEO and put in that time and be that Fortune 500 person, they log hours. They do. They work hard. No man stumbles into, well, with the exception of maybe Hunter Biden, no man stumbles into a CEO position without putting in the work. And no woman either. But what you're finding is, and there's actually really good data to back this up, is that women get to their older years, and what happens is if you get to be in your 40s and you've never had kids, and they ask, do you regret that? 100% of women say yes. Oh, yes. I focused so much on my career. I neglected my family. I neglected to have a family. I neglected getting married. And what you find is that women always say yes. They regret not having children. Men don't. Men don't, by the same margin, say, oh, I regret not having a family. Women do, 100% of them. And that's a problem that we're not going to fix by saying we're going to break up the patriarchy. First of all, you're fighting a problem that doesn't exist in America. Go to Afghanistan if you want to fight the patriarchy. Thank you, Joe Biden, for that. But it's not an America problem. It's a problem because we said, well, we invented birth control. Women can go out and sleep with as many men as they like, and they're going to be just as happy. Men would. If you gave most men access to an unlimited supply of women and you said, yeah, you can sleep with a different one every day, they'd be like, yeah, cool. That's great. I'll be fine. And they'll be fine. Mentally, their mental health. They're not going to be the best versions of themselves, probably, but not probably, definitely. They're not going to be the best versions of themselves by being that. But a man, it's not going to have detrimental effects to him long term to do that. It's not the same with women. Women who, there's an inverse correlation when you look at this in women with the amount of people you sleep with and your overall happiness when you're a woman. And it's because we told them that you can act like a man and you can be just as fine. And it's not true. You can't. There's something that women have lost in the last 50 years. And again, this movie blames it on men, but it's not men that did it. It's women that did it. Women that think that they're trying to make women happy. And there's no malice there. It's not that women did this because they think that there's something that they were trying to fool other women. They thought that this would work, but it hasn't worked. And what we need is a reversal. And the reversal needs to come relatively soon because women who prioritize their careers, women who spend their late teens and 20s having a lot of sex with random people, these people grow up and they're not happy. And that's not good for society. Having a bunch of people running around who are unhappy is not good for society. But the idea is if you say that, hey, if I come out and I act like women shouldn't sleep with everybody, people will call you you're a prude. Why do you hate women? Why do you do this? If I say, hey, not every woman should be putting her career first. If your goal in life is to be a mom and a wife, then your goal in life should be to find a good man and marry him and be good. Like that should be the goal. The idea that, oh, well, what I got to do is I got to go to college first. I got to get this degree so then I can go be a stay-at-home mom. That's dumb. That's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and it's not leading you to happiness. You go to college, I wish I could remember that old phrase. There was an old phrase that you'd hear some older women say, is where it was they didn't go to college for degrees, they went in college to get a ring, something like that. I don't remember how it goes. I heard a friend of mine say it once and I thought it was pretty funny. It's the idea that you don't need all these things that feminism tells you need to be happy. You don't need to have the career and the family and do this and do that. That we've fallen into a trap in this country. And actually, Elizabeth Warren wrote about it in an interesting book. I think the title of the book is The Two-Income Trap. And part of it is this idea that as more women started working, it didn't actually mean more money for households. What it meant was everything cost more money because women were working. And so companies now assume that every household just has two incomes. Everything is more expensive. It's not... Everyone agrees. Everyone should agree that women should have the same rights as men. But we shouldn't lie to women and say that you're going to be happy doing the same things as men. It's not true. Men and women are different. Despite what any person who is misguided will tell you, men and women are different. They have different things that motivate them. They have different desires and drives in life. They behave differently in situations. They're not the same. And it's the lie that feminism is told, that this Barbie movie exposes unintentionally. They don't do it on purpose, but they definitely show it there at the end. The famous speech has nothing to do with men. It has to do with feminism. The fact that feminism has to wake the Barbies up from their happiness coma, that's feminism. That's what that does. It tells you to be ungrateful. It tells you to be unhappy. Because feminism evolved. It's no longer... we need equal rights. Now it's, well, men are stupid. That old phrase that women need men like fish need a bicycle. That was a very famous phrase in the 70s. And that's not true. It's not how people are hardwired. Men need women. Women need men. To be happy, to be fulfilled in life, you need to have each other. But feminism lies and says you don't. It says that you can be the CEO and you're going to be fine. And you're not. You don't need kids. You're putting the 80-hour work weeks in at the law firm. That'll make you happy. It won't. It's not going to make you happy. And when you get to be 40, and what you found is a string of people that you have in your past and no kids and all this, and you look around and you've made partner and you have all the money in the world, you're not going to be happy because it turns out that you're not Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is a special person. He's a driven man in a world full of driven men. You think that you're going to be that, and you're not, because most men aren't that. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I thought this was a really interesting movie, and it was pretty funny. It had some funny bits. I rolled my eyes every time they said the word patriarchy, but overall, there were some funny bits. I thought Ryan Gosling was the best part of the movie by far. He was really funny in this movie. Ryan Gosling is great. He is definitely one of the most underrated comedic actors out there. He's in a lot of great things, and also a serious actor. He's in a couple of my favorite movies that have come out. He was in that Blade Runner remake, and he was in the Russell Crowe movie, The Nice Guys, which I thought was awesome. And he's great. He's great in everything I've ever seen him in, and he was great in this movie. His best part of Barbie movie was the man, which, again, is unintentionally very funny. But anyway, we're going to leave it there for the day. Any questions, comments? I'd love to hear people's feedback on this. If you think I'm way off base, or if you think I'm wrong about either the Barbie movie or feminism in general, please let me know. Hit me up with the comments. Send me an email, tyler@tylerchrestman.org. Whatever you want. I'll address them on the next episode. And we'll be back sooner than 6 weeks. All right. I'll catch you guys on the next one.